You did everything right and followed the blueprint. You built the comfortable life you were told to want, piece by predictable piece, the steady routine, the optimized schedule, the conflict-free zone you call your world. It's a fortress of familiarity designed for maximum efficiency and minimum distress. It's safe, predictable, it's frictionless. So why do you lie awake at night with that nagging, persistent feeling, that sense of being fundamentally stuck, like a car spinning its wheels in the mud, that quiet restlessness that whispers in the dark? Is this all there is? You scroll through images of other people's adventures, watch movies about bold choices, and you feel a longing for a life that feels less managed and more lived. You've achieved the pinnacle of modern success, comfort, but you feel more trapped than liberated. The very safety you engineered now feels like a gilded cage. What if I told you that feeling isn't a sign you're broken or ungrateful? It's a sign you're ready. And the key to unlocking the vibrant, meaningful life you actually want isn't found in more ease or more safety. It's in embracing the one thing you've been taught to run from your entire life: friction. Your brain's primary mission is to keep you alive using as little energy as possible. This ancient survival drive is a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. To achieve this, your brain creates homeostasis, a state of stable, predictable equilibrium. Let's call it by its modern name, the comfort trap. To conserve energy, your brain builds neural superhighways for your habits and routines. Think about your morning coffee or your commute to work. You perform these actions on autopilot because the path is so well worn it requires no conscious effort. It's a brilliant survival tool, but in our modern world where we seek fulfillment, this same mechanism has a profound side effect. When we worship comfort, we teach our brain that anything outside that familiar zone is a threat. Our world, once a vast landscape of possibilities, begins to shrink. The walls of the comfort zone close in. Our resilience, the psychological immune system that helps us handle adversity, begins to atrophy like a muscle we never use. We start fearing uncertainty, viewing it not as an opportunity but as a harbinger of failure. We dodge the challenges that build character, the difficult project, the marathon we dream of running, the artistic skill we want to learn. We avoid the vulnerable conversations that create real connection because they feel risky. And that feeling of being stuck, that's the great paradox of safety. The very system designed to keep you safe is preventing you from truly living, because a core human need isn't just safety, it's growth. But you don't have to detonate your life. You just have to understand that you can rewire the machine. For decades, the wisdom was that our brains were fixed after early adulthood. This has been proven completely wrong. Perhaps the most powerful concept in modern neuroscience is neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. It means your brain can build new pathways and tear down old ones, all based on your experiences, thoughts, and actions. It's not static hardware, it's dynamic, adaptable software. And the most important part is, you are the programmer. Think of your brain as a dense forest. Your habits and routines are the well-worn, easy paths. Trying something new, learning an instrument, changing an opinion, starting a conversation with a stranger, is like taking a machete to the thick undergrowth. The first few steps are slow, clumsy, and awkward. You get tangled in vines of self-doubt and trip over roots of old conditioning. And the temptation to sprint back to the easy path is immense. But here is the magic. Every time you choose that new, difficult path, you clear it a little more. With enough repetition, that difficult trek becomes a trail, then a path, and eventually a new road. That's not just a feel-good metaphor. You are physically changing the structure of your brain with your conscious choices. You are literally redirecting blood flow and growing new synaptic connections. This entire process of rewriting your mental software is supercharged by one essential ingredient: friction. When you deliberately step into a challenge, your brain releases neurochemicals like norepinephrine and acetylcholine, which act like highlighters, telling your brain, pay attention, this is important, record this. This heightened focus signals that it's time to learn and adapt. It's not about suffering for suffering's sake, it's about making life feel more real. A victory that comes after a genuine struggle feels infinitely more satisfying than one that's handed to you. So, where do you find the right kind of friction, the kind that builds you up instead of burning you out? The answer lies in understanding three distinct psychological zones. First, there's the comfort zone. This is your baseline, where everything is easy, familiar, and nothing truly grows. It's essential for rest, but if you live there exclusively, you become stagnant. You are safe, but you are not growing. Way on the other side is the panic zone. This is where a challenge is so overwhelming that it just creates stress and trauma. It triggers a fight-or-flight response where learning becomes impossible because all your energy is dedicated to survival. The panic zone doesn't build you, it breaks you, reinforcing the fear that you're not good enough. The magic where all growth happens is in the middle. It's called the stretch zone. The stretch zone is where you feel challenged, and a little anxious, but you are not defeated. It's the precise equivalent of lifting weights. If you lift a weight that's too light, nothing happens. If you lift one that's far too heavy, you cause an injury. But if you lift a weight that is just heavy enough, it creates microscopic tears in the muscle fiber that, when healed, allow the muscle to grow back stronger. Your personal growth works in exactly the same way. The stretch zone feels like the slight nervousness before you ask a question, the focus when you're learning new software, or the vulnerability of sharing a personal story. This isn't about chasing pointless pain. It's about becoming a scientist in the laboratory of your own life, deliberately applying just enough friction to create those microscopic tears in your confidence and skills so they can heal back stronger than before. This is where the real work and the real joy begins. It starts with identifying your own personal edge. And I'm curious, what's one small discomfort you've been avoiding? Let me know in the comments. Your story might just be the push someone else needs. Now, embracing friction isn't a one-time choice. It's a daily practice, a shift in how you approach life. Here are 4 practical ways to start intentionally building productive friction into your life. First, the obstacle is the way. This is a core tenet of Stoic philosophy. The idea is that every challenge is not an impediment to your path. It is the path. When you hit a wall, your first instinct is to ask, why is this happening to me? This casts you as the victim. The Stoic approach is to ask a better question. What is this trying to teach me? Or how can I use this? This tiny shift moves you from a passive victim to an active student. You can't always control events, but you can always control the story you tell yourself about them. The obstacle is raw material. You can let it be a barrier, or you can use it as a stepping stone. Second, microdose discomfort. You don't need to quit your job to grow. The goal is to build your tolerance for discomfort incrementally. Take a 30-second cold shower. Drive to work a different way without GPS. Order a coffee without pulling out your phone while you wait. The point isn't the action itself, but the act of willingly choosing a slightly less comfortable path. Each tiny act of courage is a rep at the gym for your willpower. It proves to your brain that you can handle discomfort and that it is not, in fact, life-threatening. Third, learn the friction of stillness. In a world relentlessly screaming for your attention, one of the most radical things you can do is give it nothing. The practice is simple. Sit in a room alone, in silence, for 5 minutes. Don't meditate or problem solve. Just exist. You will almost immediately feel the intense friction of your own mind, the compulsive pull to do something. This internal static is what we are constantly running from. Learning to just sit with it, to observe it, without reacting, is a superpower. It teaches you that you are not your restless thoughts. You are the one who notices them. In that space lies your freedom. And fourth, practice productive conflict. Most of us are taught to be agreeable, to keep the peace. But self-respect and genuine relationships are forged in the friction of healthy conflict. Productive conflict isn't about fighting. It's an open exchange where the goal is finding the best solution. Practice saying a polite but firm no. Have the difficult conversation you've been avoiding. State your honest opinion in a meeting, even if it's not popular. Yes, it creates social friction. But every time you do it, you teach yourself that your needs matter and build a deep, unshakable confidence that constant agreeableness can never provide. The great lie we've been sold is that a good life is a comfortable life, a life without friction or challenge. It's not. That's a recipe for a safe life, but not a full one. Comfort is a resting place, not a destination. It is the harbor where you refuel your ship, but it is not the open sea where the adventure of life happens. If you stay in the harbor for too long, it becomes a cage. True liberation doesn't come from expertly avoiding the friction of life. It comes from learning how to use it. It comes from reframing your relationship with what is difficult. The obstacles, the challenges, the moments of discomfort, they aren't signs you're on the wrong path. They are the path. They are the whetstone that sharpens your character. They are the sandpaper shaping you to reveal the stronger, more resilient version of yourself that has been there all along. That restlessness you feel, it's not a curse or a symptom of a broken life. It's a calling. It's the signal that you are ready for more. Your liberation doesn't start when the friction finally stops. It starts the moment you decide to lean into it. Congratulations, you've just taken another step toward mastering psychological self-defense. Here on Psych-Jitsu, we dive deep into neuroscience-based tactics, psychological strategies, and martial arts mindset training to help you protect your mind and navigate any situation with confidence. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. Psych-Jitsu isn't just theory, it's your first line of defense.